Welcome back. If you've been in higher ed conference lately, you've heard some version of, if you're not using AI, you're probably already behind. And while AI is changing things, I've been in this industry long enough to know that panic sells. Today, I'm talking to Dan Sanchez, the one and only AI marketing consultant and host of AI Driven Marketer podcast. He believes that most marketers think they've mastered AI, but they're really just doing more of the same. We're going to talk about what's real, what's hype, and what you should actually focus on. Welcome back to ROI University, podcast for higher ed marketers who want to change the game and themselves. I'm Rustam Irani, your host, a recovering engineer and former higher ed CMO. Dan, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. So, Dan, if you don't mind giving us a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll jump right into it. I'm excited about this conversation.
Well, I am a marketer's marketer. I love marketing. I read marketing. It is my job and it is my hobby. I got here, like many people, not because I wanted to be a marketer when I grew up or in high school, I came here through the route of graphic design, and I got into web design and got into social media and then got into building websites and just all the things, right? Like before I discovered how cool marketing was. And this was when digital marketing was becoming a thing. And I loved it so much. I couldn't just specialize in one channel. I wanted to do them all. So I've built websites and massive traffic with SEO. I've run massive ad campaigns on Facebook and Google ads. I've done YouTube. I've built podcast audiences. And right now, the thing that I'm most excited about is this thing that you just mentioned was called AI. Because I feel like I always became this bottleneck. Like I can only do so much, but now with AI, it's almost like I'm at a different level now because I can execute so many different things so much faster. I can have my teams do the same thing. And I feel like it's changing the game when it comes how fast we can go, how good the quality can be of our outputs when it comes to marketing. I had a boss tell me one time that you could never give marketing enough. You could always give it more budget. You could always give it more talent. You could always give it more effort. And generally, that's true. But I feel like I'm able to put out more than I've ever been able to put out before because of this thing AI, and I can't stop telling people about it. I feel like it's a necessary thing, but it's also a deeply satisfying and fulfilling thing if you know how to use it well.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. And I think that's one of the challenges and opportunities right now. I can tell you, and this is why I love conversations we have together, because not only have you been on the marketing side, you also have been in the higher ed space.
That's right.
So that's exciting as well. And, everybody's trying to find ways to utilize new tools to create efficiencies, right? Like you can always have, like you say, you can always do more, you can always have more. But the interesting thing, and where I've seen the biggest opportunity with AI, is the efficiency part. Like, can you get more done with what you have? And I think that's where really some of the focus is. Now, the other side of that is there's a lot of shiny objects. A lot of software tools that claim to have agents that'll do everything for you. And I've been to many a conference where that's kind of the conversation. I also hear it on the side where they talk about you have to be listed in the AEO results, right? The LLMs have to list your company, otherwise you're not known, even though it's still such a tiny little percent of actual searches going there. But still, that's not what sells, right? So tell me, what's your honest take on where you think marketers are maybe kind of spending too much time chasing gold versus actually finding the shovel so they can actually do some work?
It's funny because like you either end up on one side of the path, like there's a path and you're in one ditch or the other ditch on the side. One side is you're just not doing anything. And that's pretty common in higher ed. Like people just like, yeah, I tried it one time, but no, I don't even have an account. I run into that frequently. I'm like, come again? You don't even have a ChatGPT account? Okay. Download it on your phone right now. You're going to create an account. Here, let me tweak some of the basic settings for you. You need to start using this all the time. Just start throwing all kinds of things at it. Anything you're putting in Google, put in ChatGPT and see how it goes. just start using it to become familiar with it. Because if you're not using it yet, you probably are starting to fall behind a little bit. I'd say we are just now as marketers, even in marketers are pretty early adopters when it comes to tech,
Mm.
more than some other people, like maybe accountants or something else. I don't know. Marketers are pretty early to adopt things. But we're only just in the early majority as far as the adoption curve goes, right? When you have, the adoption curve where it starts off, and then we have a big bell curve shape, and then it goes off to the laggards. You have the innovators, the early adopters, and then we get up to the early majority, the big part of where people really start adopting that. Remember when that happened for iPhone? It was like when 3GS hit and the app started hitting it, and then like at 3GS really started becoming the early majority.
Yeah.
And then like 5 years later, even a 12-year-old kid had an iPhone or
Yeah.
an Android or something. Like it happened fast after the 3GS. But 1 and 2, like I know one person that had one. I don't think I ever met somebody with 2. You know what I'm saying? Like there's an adoption curve, and some people still haven't even started because we've only hit the early majority. So that's a lot of teams right there. It's probably like half the teams have, or half of many marketing teams, especially in higher ed, haven't even started. Of course, the other half are the people that are way over on they're the innovator groups, and they're off experimenting with things that are going to get them in trouble.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that you talked about getting them in trouble. I don't know if you saw recently, Claudebot came out, right? But maybe 12 days ago or something like that. It's already like taking over with what people are using it for. Apparently, I saw that somebody, it got access to their computer, got their phone number, actually dialed. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I
Dan,
did see
that
that.
one where
It's an amazing case study. It
it
just goes
dialed.
to show how smart these things are becoming and how now truly agentic they are. Everyone's been talking about agents for a year, and Claudebot, or now they've rebranded twice because they got sued twice,
Right, right.
or not. They got sent a cease and desist letter twice. They're now OpenClaw is the
Yeah,
official
yeah.
name,
OpenClaw.
but they created this open source agent platform that pretty much hooks into all the other AI APIs out there. So they don't have AI, but they created a place where it works. Really cool. And it's
Yeah,
able to actually be agentic. Like you can give it something and it's going to act like a really smart human that's going to problem solve. And you know what? If it can't figure it out, it will start getting creative, which is what we saw in that case study. Somebody asked it to essentially to book a hotel it wasn't a hotel, it was a restaurant reservation, but that restaurant only took reservations via phone call. It didn't have the ability to make a phone call. So I went and figured out how to create a voice chat, or how to create a voice agent within itself, and then how to actually get a phone number to actually make the call, put in the order, and then actually achieve it. I'm like,
yeah,
because that takes a human to figure out, but that's next level. The
yeah,
problem with OpenClaw is while it has all this ability to do all this stuff, it's almost the biggest like cybersecurity nightmare of all time, because
yeah,
with all of its access, we destroy all the layers of security we've been building over the last 15 to 20 years. And so that's the downside of it. And there's not a lot you can do to it. You could try to hamper it, but it's like the thing in itself is like not secure. But it is a good case study. And I
yeah.
think it'll drive forward over the next 3 to 6 months. We'll start to see much more secure versions of this that might be a little held back a little bit still. But I think this is a picture of what's coming in the near term. So it is interesting to start seeing what's possible now. We can actually do securely maybe 3 to 6 months from now.
And security to me is one of the biggest factors, right? That, especially in higher ed or any kind of industry, even on my own personal side, I've got Claude Cowork. I've toyed with Code a little bit, but you want to limit access to your personal files. I mean, one of the first suggestions I saw was to go and let it organize all your desktop and all your downloads and your files. But once you do that, you're basically giving it access to everything, right? So there's a security risk there. And I think that's real. And I think that's part of the fear that's out there. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that a true fear? I mean, should people be afraid? Like, how do you kind of manage it? I think that's one of the biggest conversations. Like, I know when we talk to some of our clients in the education space, like, they don't want to give access to these tools, right? To their proprietary data or their information. Claude works directly with Excel now, or Claude Sheets, I think it is. I forget. I think it's Excel, and it can be pretty powerful. I put some data, my own data in there, and it was pretty cool when it popped out. But what are your thoughts on that, like security? Because like I think that's a serious challenge.
It is serious. Colleges have to be m- pretty particular about this because colleges are actually huge targets for cybersecurity attacks. Huge, because they usually have lots of really valuable data and usually can't afford the best of the best cybersecurity protocols or people or whatever it is, like the enterprise dues. Enterprise companies have that too. They were a big target, but they also can afford the best. So colleges get hammered, even small colleges. So, and because we also have FERPA on the higher ed side, you gotta be really careful. So I wouldn't suggest really exploring any of this kind of stuff with higher ed yet, unless it's built into the system that you're already using. So, like maybe like Element 451, great system. They have agents within the system, but it's already within a FERPA compliant area. And it can do a lot within it because there's a lot of tools baked into the system. So I would trust that to go and do small things and have some autonomy. So there's in-house systems like that are safe, and you have to kind of evaluate them case by case.
Yeah.
High level has some agentic abilities in it, but light, so like if it's in a system and you have that system well maintained, like there's some room there, but for the most part, like Claude Cowork or OpenClaw, no, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
recommending any of this. I'd be writing policies against it if I were a higher ed institution right now, because
And
again,
that's
you're a bigger target and you have sensitive data that you're legally required to protect.
yeah, and that's it's interesting because there are some schools who have policies. There are some companies that have policies, right? There are others that have never put a policy together, and they could be having team members that are just kind of running
Yeah.
loose with this stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, that's like a really scary part is, do you even know what your team members or employees or staff are doing and what they're utilizing and not? To me, that's, I think, where a lot of this stuff, especially the shiny new objects, it's like, oh, everybody's using it, get on it. And I can't tell you how many YouTube videos are out there now on, what's it called now?
OpenClaw.
OpenClaw, right? You need to be using this. This is going to create so much efficiency. Like, man, that's amazing. So I
Don't
guess
recommend.
one question I would have, another one, Dan, is like, you know, a lot of higher ed marketing leaders, marketing directors, even just leaders and directors in general, we speak with and kind of listen to the show. You know, if they're a little overwhelmed, I can tell you, I'm still overwhelmed. Even though I feel like I've got a little bit of a grasp, I still feel pretty overwhelmed. And plus, there's so many tools: Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT. That's just to name a few, right? And so, like, where would you kind of suggest that they start? Like, what's the best place to kind of start and stay away from?
I highly recommend just having one core tool that is like company wide. You can just release it to one team for starters if you really want to, but like we're getting kind of beyond the point where we're like, oh, we're just experimenting with one team. Like pick one tool. If you're on a system already, probably if you're higher ed, you're probably on Microsoft Office. Like just commit to getting Copilot. Like that is your AI tool.
Yeah,
Go for it. If you're on Google, then Gemini's your thing. Good for you because Gemini is a lot better than Copilot.
yeah,
And will probably continue to be better. We'll see what Microsoft does. But if you're in Microsoft, just use Copilot and then give everybody access. But you can't just give them access and hope for the best. You're going to have to do trainings. You're going to have to incentivize leaders to try to incentivize the employees that work with them in order to actually learn how to use it and leverage it. And this is going to be important. This is going to be a multi-step training kind of rollout, kind of like if you were rolling out a whole new CRM or something like that. You're not just going to put it there and then hope that it works, right? No, you have to have someone who's a champion, who's giving the lessons, who's following up with people, and then having leaders set goals for utilization of it, right? I worked for one company recently that actually had like, it was part of the reporting process at the end of every single week. It was kind of like, hey, how did it go this week? What were some things that were setbacks? And then how did you use AI this week? It
Yeah.
was like a constant, like, hey, you need to be thinking about this. Hey, you need to be thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because how everyone's going to make the most of AI is going to be different depending on what role you're in. There's a lot of different ways. It's a general tool. It's like going to someone and specifying how to use Excel or Word or PowerPoint. You're like, well, depends on the role, right? It's a
Yeah.
general tool. It's going to change dramatically from use case to use case. So let the leaders specify how to use it in the department, but give them access, give them training, and then create incentive structures to get the most out of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm actually curious your take on this. Like, I was also been spending a lot of time watching YouTube and getting information from there on kind of what's the latest, what's happening, and then X is a great place to get definitely what people are actually using these tools for. So my question is like, I was even going down the route of picking up a Mac Mini to have and use it separately, where it would have access to whatever it did on there, and then I could kind of run with it that way. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, or having something completely separate? Again, hopefully for organizations, they have a sandbox or an environment where, okay, this is where it's going to access the data from and nowhere else. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I wouldn't buy a Mac Mini.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't install OpenClaw, not on my machine, not on the Mac Mini separate computer, not on a web server where you can contain it.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be using that unless you're a developer, specifically only if you're a developer and understand the environment and the complexities that it's operating in, because
Yeah.
then you can understand a little bit more the risks. I'm not playing with it. I'm not a developer. I don't understand all the different ways these things interface with each other. And that's where people are getting in trouble is they don't know what they don't know. So like they're going to get hacked. Like it's I don't mind watching the case studies of what other people are doing, but it's like so early right now with that trust me, like waiting on this particular thing called OpenClaw, it's not going to hurt you. I know everybody's trying their best to like get algo, like trick the algo and get as many views. Like, oh, if you're not trying this, you're gonna be left behind in 3 months. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Like, wait for a more secure version to come out. Claude Cowork is probably a more secure, but way less vulnerable version of OpenClaw, but it's obviously not nearly as robust as OpenClaw. But
Yeah.
as robust as OpenClaw is, it's way too vulnerable for even advanced users like myself or you to really stay safe with. I wouldn't touch it yet unless
Yeah.
you're an extremely advanced user, like specifically an advanced developer user.
So I guess to that end, then what is something that you would tell people like just stay away from, especially with like beginner or kind of intermediate folks? Like, what's like the area where it just doesn't make sense? Don't waste your time. Don't go down there. Really execute and get really proficient in this other area, right? What's one area where you'd just say like
To
stay away?
kill your to kill the FOMO of all the things you're like, what should I be trying? Generally, do not think you need to build an app like
Yeah,
or with vibe code. Like just kiss that goodbye. I actually thought about it yesterday. I'm like,
I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
a really simple tool that's been done a million times,
Yeah,
like a Trello type board, Kanban board. I'm like,
yeah,
maybe I could just vibe code that.
yeah,
It's funny. I was talking to ChatGPT and Chat's like, do you really want to maintain the code for that and then build in
yeah,
like I just wanted one for an internal team situation, and I was like, no, I don't want to maintain the code. We have
yeah.
all had to like I don't even like maintaining WordPress, and that's a pretty standard way to maintain that. I'm like, no, I don't want that. So you could stay away from that. Don't get into make.com, NAN, all the AI automation tools. I promise they're way more complex. You will spend 10 hours and not be able to move the needle forward after watching 10 hours of YouTube videos and trying to figure it out. They're not worth your time.
And
Where to
so,
spend your time
yeah,
is
go
in
ahead.
these things called custom GPTs.
Yeah.
Custom GPTs in Gemini, they're called gems. I don't know what they're called in Microsoft's Copilot, but they're in there. There's a custom Copilot version of GPTs. You just have to Google it. Claude has projects. ChatGPT also has projects that work a lot like custom GPTs. That's where I tell everyone to go. And this is for intermediate to advanced users. There's a couple different ways to approach these things, but they're really not hard to understand. They're essentially just you're giving ChatGPT or Gemini pre-made instructions. It's almost like it has an initial really long first prompt, and then you start the conversation. And the first prompt might be like, hey, you're a showrunner for this podcast. Here's the step-by-step instructions to follow every time I get a conversation started about how to get all the pre-production done for a show.
Mm.
And then, you kick it off and it runs through the step by step. It's like, great. What are we talking about today? Great. Who are we interviewing? You want to interview them about? It's essentially pulling the information out of you and doing all the work to speed it up. It's My Showrunner. You can actually go and preview it for yourself. myshowrunner.com. I've published like a generic version of this exact custom GPT. You could just copy the instructions and just look at them and see how I made it. If you look at it, it's just instructions. That's it. It's not code. It's not fancy. It's literally just a very clean set of instructions for the AI to follow. Because if you can get it to replicate your processes, well, all of a sudden things that used to take you 30 minutes to 45 minutes, like it used to take me to prepare for an interview, now it only takes 5 minutes. I've literally shown up to some interviews 5 minutes until, and then I'm quickly running My Showrunner, the custom GPT, to get a sense of who I'm talking to, what they're about, what questions, how it pairs well with my show, titles, so I know what we're creating, and then questions and an intro, outro, and it's like done. But you could do all that in a custom GPT. That's partly why I'm not even interested in OpenClaw. Sure, OpenClaw can do a lot more stuff and make it even fancier, and email the guest and all that for me, and I don't even have to deal with it. But for now, most people don't even leverage custom GPTs, and it's way simpler, way more secure, and you can build tools for yourself. You can build tools for your team. You can share it with other ChatGPT accounts. You can build shared projects where you're both collaborating with a shared set of instructions in a shared folder in ChatGPT. That's the kind of stuff available that like 99% of users don't use.
And so that's interesting that you said that. One thing we did, we went down the whole Teams route with ChatGPT, with basically creating that. We realized there were still limitations there. You really couldn't share files within there and so on. So we just came out of that. And then, we just started working in custom GPTs that we could kind of share and work within. There's just so many amazing use cases. Like you've got brand guidelines, right? You've got your ICP, you've got all this information on, at least for us, when we work with school clients, we have these folders where it has this insight and we want to do some research. We want to ask it some questions. It's right there. And I think custom GPTs, I remember, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, you had mentioned that to me. You even have a course, a free course that people can take and do. And I can, if you're all right with it, I can leave it in the show notes for people to grab that and kind of go through it. Do you still have that course available, Dan?
Yes, it's on danchez.com/courses.
Awesome. And so, custom GPTs just seem like such a amazing way to do a lot of this stuff. And it's not difficult. Like you said, it's just kind of following a certain format and then kind of putting the inputs in. That's pretty much it. And giving it some resources. So, that's awesome. I guess the other thing, Dan, on my end, we hear a lot is all of this talk about outbound and AI that's kind of creating outbound calls and speaking with an agent. And, will people enjoy that experience? Will they not enjoy that experience? I've had both sides of that conversation. There's some pretty amazing AI bots out there. I just heard one 2-3 weeks ago. It was just a great conversation. It actually sounded like it was coming from a call center. It had sound like it was coming from a call center. So that was neat. But what are your thoughts on it? Do you think prospective customers or students or clients at some point, or maybe even today, are okay with it? I have my opinion. I'm pretty impressed with it, but I might have a bias being a marketer.
I've never been a fan of Outbound, even when it was human done. I respect it. I get for people who know how to do it well and they get results out of it. But because I never really disliked it as a consumer, I've never really sought out how to do it well. So I know there's like a whole game and a system for Outbound, and I've never really explored it. I know AI can do it, but I like the idea of that even less. So I'm like, ugh. Now, there are some kinds of Outbound that's more inbound, but it's kind of a mix of the hybrid. So this is where I would be interested in testing right now. Let's say a student comes in and puts in an inquiry. They want to learn more. They request the brochure.
Yep.
And then within 15 minutes, as long as it's between 8 a.m. and whatever that cutoff time for you is, 7:30, whatever, they get a call back as if a human call center, because this is what the for-profit universities do. They're really good at following up on the phone, right? The
Mm.
AI follows up and be like, hey, saw that you just requested information about the university. Here to help you answer any questions. Or if you want, I can even get you set up to time to talk to an actual student or have some kind of lead. That would be a more interesting use case than just going cold outbound. I feel like cold outbounds, we're all going to be really tired of that really fast.
Yeah, understood. I think the other side of that, again, like you said, is also being very open and positioning it like, hey, I'm so on, so and so's chatbot, right? Or I know they personalize chatbots with names and so on. But like if you're open about it right off the bat, then at least they know it's like that outreach and then going from that to the next step. I appreciate that. There's a lot of people, a lot of companies that are pushing that at huge volume across many B2C industries. So it's going to be interesting to see. I've talked to both sides, talked to some leaders that are all about it and want to see how they can create efficiency and utilize it. And then there are others that say, I'm not there yet. I do not want a bot talking to any of our prospective students or anything along those lines.
There's a big opportunity for higher ed in this, and I think this will take a little bit to catch on. I've actually been thinking and talking about this for about 2 years now, and it still hasn't really come, and I think it will. I feel like it's inauthentic to pretend that AI is a human, which is why I even like adding like, hey, I'm an AI, but I can actually understand and have conversations, answer a lot of your questions, or I could just book a conversation with a human. Fine. But you know what you could do you don't even have to say you're AI because nobody's going to assume it's human is if you're a character. But most colleges have mascots. So wouldn't it be cool if your mascot answered the phone? A lot of them are already doing it on site chat with AI anyway, and it's your mascot answering the calls. Then nobody's pretending to think it's human. Both sides are very clear about it. But then you can brand that sucker and give it a voice and maybe give it a little drama, give it a personality.
Yeah.
Imagine you're calling in for customer support on Disney and Mickey answers the phone and talks and walks you through it and then connects you with a human. Yeah. That's going to be a brandable and a very interesting experience. But I think a lot of companies can actually, like when you think about Disney doing it, you're like, oh, of course, that's going to be great. And it's actually going to take probably a bad phone tree situation that Disney currently has to a nice, pleasant experience talking to AI Mickey and then getting connected to someone that can help you. Or AI Mickey can serve you himself.
Yeah.
But imagine you can do it with like your mascot. And if it's a Lancer or something, you kind of give it like a thing with some background noise and just make it really, that's just kind of cool. Like, I think that's what I would want to experience as a consumer. And I think a lot of people would buy into it and it wouldn't be weird. It'll just be like normal and it'll be fun. And you can have you can do a lot with it.
Yeah. I like that idea. Look, I think it's going to be like every person's a little unique in kind of how they experience things, right? And what type of experiences they appreciate. I can tell you, like any live chats where it tells me it's an agent, and then I'm good with at least if it can get me the information, I'm good personally. But if I want to talk to somebody, it gives me that option. So I like that as well, right? But it's very open, right, about it.
They've gotten better at actually being, because AI chats have been around for a while and they always sucked. Like they never could answer the question. Now, especially if they hook up to a whole database, they're actually pretty good. You're like, thank you. It's like, have I answered your question? You're like, yes, you have. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Like they're actually getting good at contextualizing it just right and they can answer questions,
I think maybe it was 2.5, 3 years ago. I remember when we were looking at some live chat options, and I think Bank of America was one where they had done this study of their customer satisfaction score on a AI-based agent versus a live agent on live chat. And it actually scored higher. The AI support live chat scored higher in customer satisfaction than the actual live chat agent. This was like literally 2.5, 3 years ago. This is way before all this stuff. So anyways, I just think, again, it really depends on what context and kind of how you're using it and so on. So, but no, I appreciate it. Dan, this has been great. There's a lot here to unpack and for people to kind of take away. And I appreciate that. And so, if you were to say final bit of advice to kind of anybody out there that's kind of really jump into that and spend some time, what would be your one kind of nugget of advice and how to kind of take advantage and just be ahead of this stuff?
I mean, usually if you're already listening to podcasts like this, you're already the kind of person that's out there that's learning. The problem is most people aren't listening to podcasts like this one. It's not doing anything. But if you're this kind of person, you probably already have ChatGPT installed. You're probably the person who already pays for the license, which shows me that it was valuable enough that the $24 became a no-brainer. Good.
Yeah.
The next best thing you can do in order to take it to the next level is set up a project within ChatGPT. And it's a little folder. It's on the left-hand side. There's these things called projects. Set up a project for every area of your work. I would even set one up for different major areas of your life. I have one for my cars, one for my home, even one for my family. Okay. And then I start off every conversation within those projects, be like, hi, ChatGPT, I'm starting a project around, let's just say my home, because it's easy to understand. I'm starting a project around my home for all the things that I might have to fix in my home someday or want to understand. Ask me a bunch of questions that I can answer that we can use to then create the instructions that will give you the context, the most general set of context that you can use for all future conversations. So it gave me a bunch of questions like, well, what kind of home do you have? What kind of grass do you have? What kind of HVAC system do you have? And it asked me all these really specific questions. And I went through, I'm like, okay, well, I got a 2-story home. The HVAC is a split level thing. I have Bermuda grass, front yard, backyard. Here's some of the story behind that. And here's what we got. And I kind of just ran through all the things about my home. And now when I have problems with things, I go to that project and I'm like, hey, recently it got really cold. There's a lot of ice here in Tennessee and my heater wasn't working as well. So I go to it. I'm like, hey, this is the sound that it's making. This is what's going on. I'm troubleshooting with ChatGPT, but I don't have to give it the context because we already did that in the instructions. It already knows the model, or it already knows how it's a split thing where it's like an attic and outdoor unit, how it generally works. So it's we skipped all that. And it is now with every conversation I have in that one project on just my home, it's getting smarter and smarter. It's able to retain more and more memory. Remember, this memory thing of it being able to remember all this stuff is only a year old anyway. So within a couple of years, it's going to have a much better knowledge of all the conversations. So the more you start having in these folders around different big projects, maybe you're split between a bunch of different departments because you're one of those marketing teams that has all these different colleges going to the central university marketing team. You're that big. Create folders for them all. And if you might like an agency, you can have a folder per client. There's even a setting when you first set up the folder. So it's do you want to have access to the information across the account, or do you want to limit it to just this one folder? So it's almost like you're talking to a chat GPT account within your chat GPT account. So it doesn't remember anything in any of the other custom GPTs, projects, or just conversations. It only remembers what happens in this folder. And that can be really handy. So you don't have information going between clients, right? So projects is the best place to start. If you're paying for it and you want to start going to advanced, setting up all these project folders is the next best place.
Love it. Awesome advice. Dan, so this has been great. I appreciate you joining the show. Really appreciate our, relationship over many years, your experience, your insights, all of the advice that you've been giving me over the years. So grateful for that. And I think a lot of people needed to hear that it's okay and to be thoughtful instead of panic about being on top of the latest AI tools and so on. But I think you gave really, really great advice. Where can people find you and follow your work, Dan? We'll definitely drop it in the show notes. But where can people connect with you if they want to learn more about your services and what you're doing with clients on the AI side?
Yep. AI-drivenmarketer.com is where you can find the show. If you want to learn more about AI and marketing, that's where I highly recommend going. Listen to a few episodes. If you like what you're hearing, you can go to AI-drivenmarketer.com and find the newsletter and other services and all kinds of things. But listen to the show first and see what you think.
Awesome. Well, Dan, again, thanks so much for being on. And everyone, that's all for this class of ROI University, where the big ROI is personal.